hear from you about what is acceptable and what is not when it comes to using Twitter and Facebook. Obviously anyone who's been around for a while knows that acceptable use only goes so far, though. I can tell my users all day that I don't want them to do something. They're still going to do it if they find a benefit in it. So that's where technology comes in. Really, there's three pieces to the technology strategy from where I sit. First one is web content filtering. And frankly, none of the web content filters that I've seen are granular enough to really be effective yet. That said, there's certainly some stuff that you can do. You can set the web content filters to disallow certain apps.facebook.com URLs. You can disallow the tiny URL services from Twitter. You might allow Twitter access, but you're not going to allow tiny URL because who the hell knows where they're sending you. Things like that to help limit the scope of damage, limit the potential access that these users can get, and the potential opportunities for Facebook and Twitter to compromise. Second piece is endpoint security. And I'm not talking about antivirus and spyware. Those are all fine and good, and everybody has to run them, blah, blah, blah. What we've started to see in endpoint security is some new technology that I think is really, really interesting. I'm going to highlight one vendor, and not because I'm vendor neutral. I just kind of like this tech. About middle of last year, Zone Alarm came out with Checkpoint, but Zone Alarm's new product came out with sandboxing for the browser. Basically, the browser's running a VM. It's sort of like chroot used to be on Unix. It's not perfect. It can be broken out of, I'm sure. I haven't done it. I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it can be. All sandboxes can eventually be broken out of. But sandboxing the browser, raises the bar that much more. And I was on a panel the other day, and someone said that all security is ultimately the problem, not about outrunning the bear, but about outrunning the friend. And I really believe that to be the case. If you can make it that much harder for the bad guys to exploit your users, they'll go somewhere else. Generally, there's always a few targeted attacks, but if you can eliminate the 90% case just by making it annoying for the attacker, then you can focus on the hard stuff at that point. And the sandbox technology actually works really well. And other vendors are coming out with it now. I haven't used any other ones but the Zone Alarm one last year. But it's kind of cool because it raises the bar for attackers to actually break out of the browser and do something useful to the computer. I think that's fantastic. It actually gives you a whole lot of sanity and peace of mind about this kind of stuff. The third one is brand protection. And this is where you start to see the real usefulness of the real control set around this stuff. The brand protection software is really cool. I actually met a guy from Mark Monitor on a plane a couple months ago, had a long conversation with him about this problem. He was fascinating. The other one that I've sort of got some background on is Reputation Defender. A friend of mine has done a lot of work with them, and they seem to really have their stuff together. Both are service-based, and the idea is basically it's like the Uber Google News Alert. It basically is they will take a list of things that you're worried about, whether it's company trademarks, IP, company information, the names of your executives, whatever. They'll take that information and they'll effectively spider the web for it. They'll spider all these sites for it. They'll look at the social networks. They'll look at what's available on LinkedIn. They'll look at what's available on Twitter. And when bad stuff, however you define bad stuff, shows up, they'll let you know about it. Some of them actually even have services to clean it. They'll have, especially in the trademark violation type stuff, they'll go effectively without you engaging a lawyer, they'll go deal with the cease and desist type stuff for you. Really effective, and from a management and monitoring perspective, you don't have a SIM to protect you against, to gather all your information about social networks. That's what this stuff is useful for. And that's a place that you can actually really get some benefit in terms of knowing what's going on out there. In the old days, we had to do it ourselves. Now we have these tools that can really help out. The third one is people, and I could spend months, hours, days, months, years talking about this because we have to move the idea of security awareness, and I hate talking about security awareness because it's such a bad metaphor, but we have to move the idea of security awareness from just the annual checkbox training to actually getting the users involved in their own protection. The whole idea, I kind of believe in Facebook's model of, hey, your privacy and security, your problem. Well, if that's the case, if our privacy and security of our organizations is our problem, then we have to get our users involved. We have to actually engage the users on a level that they understand what the threats are and how to mitigate. Whether mitigation is just picking up the phone and calling the help desk or calling the SOC, or mitigation is like, dealing with it on their own level, we have to get the users involved because I really believe that, it's nice to do the checkbox training, but frankly, it doesn't stick. What you read, what you see, it's fine. It's a little bit helpful. What you feel and what you genuinely experience, that's where you're really going to see this. And I'm a big fan, and I have done a million presentations on it, and we'll do a million more of talking about the security awareness process as a process of marketing. This is the traditional process. Really only involves the blue box and the gray box for for those who can see the slides. The traditional security awareness process has been a process of, all right, what do we want the users to know? Let's go tell them. And that process really doesn't drive the message home. If you think about the way marketers approach that same sort of message, there's all kinds of checkpoints and measurement. There's all kinds of actually fundamental waypoints and management in the process that we as an industry have missed in security awareness. And I think if we're going to solve this problem, we really have to get the users involved, and we really have to teach them how to understand how to be involved in their own security, both from a home perspective and from a work perspective. The one argument I never hear talked about in security awareness is the personal aspect of it. And dude, I'll tell you, all the stats on identity theft say that the real cost of identity theft from a personal standpoint is not the money. You steal my identity, big friggin' deal. I actually had, last year, I had my passport, my green card, all that kind of stuff stolen out of the back of a rental car. It didn't cost me very much from a monetary perspective, but holy crap did it cost me a lot of time. And that's time I could have been working. That's time I could have been dedicated to my company. And most of that time is between 9 to 5. Your user gets their credit card stolen, blah, 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 and they have to go to their bank. They have to call their credit card company. In some cases, they have to get police statements and affidavits. That's all time that they're not going to be at work. That's all time that they're going to be thinking about something else. They're not going to be productive. That's time that's costing the company, whether or not you think of it that way. We think of it as sort of white dollars instead of green dollars, but guess what? That's costing the company, even though it didn't attack the company at all. And so if we teach our users to be more secure, there's actually a benefit to the company that's ancillary outside of the direct benefits to the company that we never talk about. I can't even imagine how you put a real dollar amount to that or how you put a study around that, but I would love to do it. And if anybody out there has some ideas or some notes or some back of the napkin calculations, get in touch with me because I want to know. All right, rant over. So I think that's pretty much an overview of how to deal with social networking and security in the organization and in the enterprise. Certainly a lot of area to cover, and I mean we could do a whole week on this. We could do huge numbers of webinars and training seminars on this, and we haven't yet, but we probably will do more in the future. As of now, I'm opening it up to questions. If you have questions, stick your hand up in the webinar thing. I don't actually know. I haven't seen anyone with their hand up yet, but yeah, if you have questions, stick them in the chat, stick them in the webinar users. I believe there's a menu option to raise your hand. Just hit the help button, and we will go from there. Our first question appears to come from